Yahoo NBA senior analyst and host of the Kevin O'Connor Show. He is Kevin O'Connor, who used to be with The Ringer. Now he's with Yahoo. Thanks for joining the program, Kevin. Good to have you, man.
Appreciate you guys joining me. How are you doing?
Good. We're doing great. And when Egor Demin's in the NBA draft conversation, that's great because we've been waiting for an NBA draft pick since Jimmer. So give us what you're seeing from Egor Demin and where he might go and where he is in your latest mock draft.
Well, it was a great combine for Egor in Chicago. Measured in at 6'8.25" without shoes. That's going to put him at over 6'9", almost 6'10" with shoes. A bit bigger than I think NBA teams were expecting from him. Seems to have shot the ball well, and I think with Egor, that's my big question with him. I'm a bit lower with mock drafts and on my big board on Egor than other outlets are, and that's because of the questions about the jumper we saw in the tournament, the shot creation against great defenses, being able to turn the corner. But if he is indeed making progress as a shooter in workouts and that sustains, I think that's going to lock him into the lottery because everything else he does, the playmaking with his size, his defense, his intelligence, the off-ball movement, checks a lot of boxes. But to me, like you see it in the playoffs, how important shooting is. Can he figure that out? And we'll see throughout this pre-draft process and then his NBA career. But he's definitely a very talented prospect.
So you watched him at the Combine. You also watched teams watching him at the Combine. Where's the best fit for him to be successful?
I think with Egor, like let's assume the jumper's slow to develop. I wouldn't want him in Chicago. They have a lot of guys without great jumpers there. Josh Giddey up and down with him. Portland would be interesting at number 11. Atlanta at 13. Maybe there's a little bit too much overlap with Jalen Johnson. I mean, to me, I think it's really the clean slate teams that I'd like him at most, like Brooklyn at number 8. They only have 2 guys under contract next season. That's a clean slate. If they were to take Egor at number 8, or if they were to trade for a second lottery pick, which they are rumored to have interest in doing, Egor would make a lot of sense for a team like that. But Toronto at 9, a lot of non-shooters. Houston at 10, a lot of non-shooters. There'd be pressure on Egor to become a competent shooter early in his career. But I think Brooklyn at 8, and then, maybe Minnesota at 17, somewhere like that. Washington at number 18. I think that some of the teams in the mid-first are a bit better than those teams in the late lottery for the best fits for Egor to have long-term success in the NBA.
What's your best guess at whether he's more likely to go inside the lottery or outside it?
I mean, I think he's like kind of right on the fence there, but I would lean towards he gets drafted probably in the lottery after what he did at the NBA draft combine. But with that said, though, like I said, you could say he's going to be a lottery pick, but Portland at 11, Chicago at 12, Atlanta at 13, San Antonio at 14. A lot of those teams need shooting. And so with Egor, if he's shooting the ball really well in pre-draft workouts, if it looks like he changed his mechanics since BYU season. If he continues to shoot well, then maybe those teams are more likely. Maybe it becomes so likely that you're talking about teams in the top 10, New Orleans at 7, Brooklyn at 8, Toronto at 9, maybe somewhere like that. But ultimately, I had him after my combine mock draft on Yahoo. I had him at 18 to the Wizards because of the concern with the amount of teams that need shooting in that late lottery range. But ultimately, I mean, you talk to agents around the league, so many of them are like non-concerned about whether a guy goes in the lottery or goes in the mid first round. What they always look for, almost every agent you talk to, it's not about how high you go. It's about, let's get this guy in the absolute perfect spot for his career. So if Egor were to fall to like 20 to Miami or even number 21 to Utah.
We like that one, Kevin.
That would be a great thing. I don't think that necessarily would mean he performed poorly in workouts or didn't interview well. In fact, it could actually just mean a team was trying to steer him. His agent was trying to steer him to that team. So I almost am like, don't worry too much about if a guy goes lottery. And of course, it'd be nice for BYU to have a lottery prospect, but they'll have one next year at AJ Dybantsa anyway.
Yes, and I want to talk about AJ in a second, but I want to follow up and ask you, how much can a guy help out his, for Egor, his shooting in person, like you mentioned? If he kills it, hey, that helps. Because you see him on film, he shot 27%. There were games in the NCAA tournament where he shot much better. The stroke looks pretty good. How much, without playing like 5-on-5 and hey, these were actual games, can a guy help himself like Egor at the combine because he shot well?
I think the fact he looked like he tweaked his shooting mechanics is a positive indicator because, then it's like two different worlds. If you're looking at what he did at BYU, he shot 18% on dribble jumper 2-pointers, 25% on 3-pointers off the dribble, 27% on catch and shoot threes, under 70% from the free throw line. Those are not good numbers. Like, those aren't positive indicators for what you hope he can be in the NBA. But as you said, he had really hot stretches early in the season. He had some hot stretches in the tournament as well as a shooter. If there's actual mechanical changes that happened, maybe you throw those numbers just out the window and you look at who this new guy is that has had moments where he shot the ball well. If it were something in his hands or something with his elbow placement, with his feet that a team or his team resolved, if you're an NBA team, you'd be feeling a lot more confident about him, because if it's just a concern about the jumper and you're betting on character with him, you're betting on work ethic, and you're betting on everything else that he already has as a versatile defender, as a connective playmaker, as a cutter off ball, with his size, the rebounding that he can offer. He checks literally every other box. If the shooting is solved, the dude could end up being a major steal in the draft. And so that's where the appeal is with Egor ultimately. But the biggest question, though, is a jumper. Not a lot of guys don't improve their shots. It seems like he's made some progress already. So I think teams can feel increasingly confident, even if you're a skeptic of him, like I personally have been throughout this process, because of the shot.
Last question on Egor. He's a BYU story. He's an international story. Russia hasn't had a lottery kid for 20 years. How big of a deal is it for him over there?
I mean, I think for Egor, and anytime you're an international prospect, you got a hardcore following. Russia, I don't believe, is the biggest basketball country by any means. But having a guy like that, perhaps you have your niche audience overseas, and that audience can grow over time if Egor grows into stardom. I mean, who knows what level he could reach as a player and what that could mean for basketball in Russia.
There was a cool moment where Egor Demin was at Travis Hansen's house. Travis played at BYU, played in the NBA a little bit, successfully internationally, with Andrei Karolinko. They took a photo like a month ago. We're like, this is awesome, man. This is great. Let's talk about AJ Dybantsa. Do you feel like it's AJ versus Darren Peterson for the #1 pick in a year?
Yeah, I think next year, Cam Boozer as well at Duke. There's a number of guys, maybe even 4 guys, if you want to look internationally, that could vie for that #1 spot. But Dybantsa's my #1 now. Maybe I'm a little biased because I'm from Brockton, Massachusetts.
Oh,
like
there
AJ
it is.
Dybantsa is. We're Brockton. We're proud. I noticed in one of his recent interviews, they said he's from Boston. He's like, no, I was born in Boston, but I grew up in Brockton. Us Brockton people always correct people about that. Brockton, not Boston. So I interviewed AJ at the All-Star weekend in San Francisco, and obviously he's just a teenager, but impressed with his definitely love for basketball, his knowledge about the game as well, and his understanding of things that he needs to get better at. He talked to me about how his free throw percentage ticked over 80 this season and how that was important for him, because he knows shooting with him is, like with every player, going to be vitally important for his long-term projections to become a star in the NBA. But this is a guy like literally a do-it-all player, a tone setter on defense. BYU fans next year are going to see him pounding his chest, yelling, getting the crowd fired up on defense, setting a tone for his team. He's a passer as well. You'll see him kicking out to Richie Saunders, who I like. AJ Dybantsa, the scorer, the playmaking, the defending. I think he's the #1 prospect in the 2026 class now. But as you said, Peterson, Boozer, among others, there will be a lot of contenders for that, which is what makes the college season so exciting. And also, from a draft standpoint, with what I do, just incredibly exciting looking ahead to next year.
Kevin, you throw in Rob Wright. Will BYU have 3 NBA guys in their starting 5 this year?
I mean, it's very possible. Very possible. I mean, I think Richie Saunders, I had him as an early second-round pick, late first-round pick this year if he were to declare. I know he was going back, but ultimately I had a grade for him there. Richie Saunders, man, I know he's older, but he could play himself into that first-round conversation. When you think about the energy he brings, the shooting he brings, the defense he can bring, Richie Saunders has everything. Like, you see these teams in the playoffs right now. What is it? It's you can't be a weak link. Richie Saunders is not a weak link. He's a strength for your team. He enhances stars, and he can get buckets himself. I think that guy's going to be a player a long, long time. I know it's probably a lazy BYU comparison, but I think there's shades of Danny Ainge with the energy and the shooting that he brings.
Love it.
So, I mean, I love Richie Saunders' game, and I look forward to seeing him. And you're right, there could be 3 potential pros in the starting lineup.
It's fun to see someone develop like that because Richie was a guy off the bench a year ago, and now he's a star in the Big 12, which is amazing. Purely on effort. He's got a ton of skill, too, of course, and the headband's a fun look. Kevin, we appreciate the time. How can people find your stuff?
Over at Yahoo Sports, I have my mock drafts and big boards and our NBA draft guide. And my podcast is the Kevin O'Connor Show, which we are 2 or 3 times a week during the postseason talking playoffs and NBA draft as well every episode.
And shout out to one of your producers, Emmy Franks, one of our old students here at BYU.
Emmy is the absolute greatest. Love working with Emmy, and thankful she found her way to Yahoo from BYU.
She's awesome. Kevin, we appreciate the time. Thanks, man.
Thank you so much.